Right, good afternoon. So, this particular live stream is going to be about the trading book, and I'm just going to pull it up. So, hopefully, this works. I'm going to attempt to minimize the size of it down a bit and drag it into this window. So, okay, this is really squished because I'm doing this on my screen and we can see the trading P&L. It actually isn't that good um, today, but in particular, well, it's not that great because this screen is smallish, but I can scroll across. So this is normally typically a wide screen, so I don't know what it is, like a 40-inch wide screen, and you normally get two of them stacked to put one on top of each other. And this is effectively, in here is the actual trading book, as we can see, and we can see all of the line items that are in there. So this is an exchange traded, an ETF trading platform that is built primarily in Java, and for sort of like the front end part of the code, and actually the back end as well. So it's mostly Java in the stack, and then the leading pieces, should I say, are in Python. So all the data science pieces are in Python. I'm not a fan of breaking the stack up into multiple pieces, but then some would argue, and we've had this discussion on the desk, some would argue that there's different reasons for different different pieces of the stack. For example, Python is known to not be a fast language. So, yeah, whereas Java's a faster language, but then Python's much quicker and much better for data science, whereas Java isn't, and so forth. I don't know if I fully adhere to all of those things. I think you can do most things in one language, but nonetheless, there are multiple languages out there, and there's examples of companies that do everything in one stack, and I think they're more complete in a way, just because you're not diversifying your knowledge. So, but anyway, we'll go and look at some of the code. But what actually is this? We've got some sort of risk management tool, but actually a better risk management tool is at the end over here. So we can sort of like see our DVO1 over here, and these are all of our some of our counterparties. But you can see the DVO1 over here, or the risk that's on the book per basis point in bucketed risk, and then our trading DVO1. So we've sold lots of things today, so our positions are reduced in terms of rates risk. So that's kind of like what we have. And this thing here, this is actually a Streamlit component. So for example, I might go and look into this piece. This is written in Python. So this piece over here, this much like bigger bit, this is all a one big Java application basically. It's quite a cute application because it's run from, if I can scroll down to the bottom somewhere on this, it's hard to do. There we go. It's run straight out of a browser, so everything's in the browser, which is quite a nice way of doing things. So let's just go back. And what we actually have here anyway just is a bunch of symbols. So these are the exchange traded funds on all of the different exchanges and all of the positions that the book has. There's a good 2,000 positions that the trading book has, and this is why, like some people, when you think you can trade at home, you can't trade at home. You can't compete with this kind of stuff unless you're able to build something of this scale. And even here and now, with a company that I'm at now, GHGO, which is part of Mirror Asset Management, which is like large. It's a large company. Well, it's humongous compared to an individual, but it's still small in terms of compared to other operations that I've been at which we say just much larger operations. So we're talking like orders of magnitudes between like the private investor and the world at large, should we say, or the private investor and the professionals. So again, like we can sort of like see the sizes, the bid and ask sizes, and we quote like what we call brackets and multiple brackets worth. Um, so lots of different quotes go out into the market, and there's just a whole bunch of pricing here, sort of like a mid pricing, our next best price, and our price after that. And so you can see here that you know, just this on its own is 1,500. So that's 3,000, about 6,000 prices that are sent to the exchanges. You know, like literally every second and so forth. And there's a whole bunch of other things that are in there. I wonder if I scroll a bit more across, do we see it? Yeah, and then you can sort of like see the trade blotter. And today's a quiet day because it's actually New Year's Eve, so there's no trading or very light trading going on. But we can see the frequency of trades, and normally there's a few thousand trades. And again, as a small operation, there's only a couple of thousand trades, but maybe when the operation gets bigger, there might be like 20,000 trades or 10,000 trades. At least that's a near-term target. So I should kind of like delve into some of the pieces now, which is, I won't go into the Bloomberg terminals and things, but here's some of the code. And just to give some sort of example, where was the code I had before? Yeah, I think this was the one. Since this is kind of like a coding channel, you know, you might as well go and see some of the code, but we use some of the tools, some tools that are, you know, I've done lots of videos on Pandas, for example. And Pandas is the popular data frame in Python. It's which stands for panel data. It leverages off of NumPy, and this is it's written in the C language, so it leverages off it. It's an extremely fast interface. Basically, it's a contiguous block of memory, basically like one data frame. It's an efficient way of running things, and you can of running code in terms of speed and memory size. And yeah, so that's used, and that's like, you know, I guess that's one of the main tools that's nearly always used is our NumPy pandas. We're here using this this package here, or this module here. It's called Streamlit, and Streamlit's quite a cute application. I've done a couple of videos on Streamlit as well. Not related to this, but funnily enough, you know, our tools are related to this, where it gives you a convenient front end, so you can extract things from a database and pass them out onto the front end over here into a web page, and you can sort of like, you know, go through and browse for all of the different tabs. Maybe I will to PCF breakdown. Let's have a look. Yeah, it gives you like, you know, this little tool, and sort of like, IEMB, you can kind of like look things up, and this is all created in a Streamlit application that's, well, be relatively light, and sort of like see the breakdowns of things and charts and stuff that are convenient for us. I tend to, this particular one, if I'm going to zoom back here, I'll just put it back on the risk view because it's the risk view that I see. You can see here that running bit, this is very common for Streamlit. It's just extracting data from the database and then like passing it into a front end. So that is basically the code that is, wherever I got that from, let's pull it back. That is the code that is being looked at over here. So yeah, I was going through this because it's something that somebody wrote. Again, everything's like done in GitHub, so the Git repository. The Git repository is over here. It's in my Chrome browser, and I was kind of like looking through the Git repository, and yeah, it's kind of like the commits and things. Like, it's quite nice if you have used GitHub. You know, I'm not the hugest fan, but like I can see why it's used, because, you know, here's, you know, a piece of code, basically and you can see you can basically see what was changed very, very quickly. So the reds were the old bits and the greens are the new bits. So the person that changes code updated this particular line, and I thought, you know what, I've got a bit of time because it's New Year's Eve and it's a little bit quieter, there's no trading going on, that I'm actually going to go and look through the code myself. And so that code, again on the GitHub, it kind of like points to where it is. So like, yeah, I can see the path of it, and I can like download the local package and view it in Visual Studio Code, which is the editor that I tend to always use. So it's like when anyone looks at the stuff that I do, you tend to see me using VS Code, and pretty much exclusively that is the editor. But anyway, I wonder if I should zoom in a bit. Control because I'm not sure that it can be seen. So, and I will just get rid of the sidebar as well. I've zoomed in a lot just to make it visible on the screen. So we've imported pandas, we've imported Streamlit, and then there's like this extra thing over here which is st_pages. I've not seen this one before, but when I go to it and take a look, well, I actually did before, but it's basically for adding pages. I wonder if I've got it there somewhere. No, that was in the... I guess I could just stick it in here, st_pages Streamlit, but it will tell you what this is. But it's basically, it appears to be some sort of newer package in Streamlit that allows you new packages from it, change page names and icons in the sidebar. So it's just giving you an extra facility to do a few extra pieces, basically. So that's what that is. And I shall go back. I'm scrolling this way because I've actually got a window open inside a window, so it's like viewing. I'm remoting into the work PC, so you're viewing my view of a remote into a work PC. So that's kind of like why it's embedded like that. Yeah, and I was kind of like just browsing around just to see what you know. These were the changes that were made, at least. So it's kind of like, let's go and have a look. But actually, one thing that was annoying me was this little piece of code over here, and I don't know if it is visible on the actual screen, so it might not be. But this little piece here, which is not coloured in yellow, it's coloured in white, which means a linter hasn't picked it up. The linters are extremely useful in VS Code, and probably in every single language, actually, to be fair. But that hasn't been picked up. This is a data frame. This is the data frame method, the lock function, which basically filters. This thing here is filtering for where position exposure in US dollars is not equal to 0. And this should be type hinted. And the reason why it's not, the reason why it's come up as white and not as yellow is because Python doesn't know that this is a data frame, that this function here, this load asset function, which has passed its value. So load asset is assigned to into position. So position is the result of this. And load asset, if I do hover over it, you'll see it's got any over here. And I think that should, so I'm going to provide a comment, but I probably won't do it today. It should be, either it should be like none or something like that, or any, but it should actually probably be a pandas, a pd.data frame. But outside of that, normally what I would do is, if I was attempting to fix this, is I would actually just type in something like pd.data frame. I like the linter on this one, pd.data frame, like that, and that should be sufficient. But I get this squiggly underscore here, and I don't know if it's because of my linter or not, or something else, but that's normally what I would do. It says here, variable not allowed in type expression, and I don't know if that's because of the linter that's being used, which is the rough linter. The rough linter is... Again, I've got to do a lot of scrolling, I think, on this. I did have it open before. It's just an extension, and there's different types of linters that people can use. There we go, it's this one here. So it's this extension. The company tends to use this one, so I go along with it. So I don't know if it is the linter or not that's creating that, but if I just cut that out, the other thing that I could possibly do is type into it over here, but it gives me the same error. And normally I might try to do something like this if I didn't get the type hint, that I just literally type into it explicitly. Why do I do type hinting? And the color, why is the colorization useful? Because I want to basically see that you know, this actually works. And normally, like when you've got these things and you can sort of like right click and navigate to it, it means it works. It means it's a method of, you haven't done a typo. It's not something like, oh, I didn't do a typo, data frame like this. So because this PD here is being, it's got the squiggly underscore, so the yellow squiggly underscore, it's not going to know if this piece is correct. And I have an inherent problem with this because I just don't like it, because I'm at risk now. You see this lock? Let's say it was actually lock. It's not throwing any message because it's not recognizing what it is, because it thinks it's any. So it's a little bit odd, and I don't know why. Is it because PD's just being assigned as value of load asset? No, because that's PD. That would be the data. That's PD. Yeah, that looks a bit odd, to be fair. I think that this should be DF. Right. I'm actually going to mention this to my esteemed colleague. So, yeah, that's a bit of an odd one. He's not in now. So, should be. I'm going to paste it again in here. And this should be DF. I'm just like, I guess the one nice bit of it is I can, like, well, someone else does a for I, so I don't know why, for example, because we have got good devs. The developers didn't spot this. You're watching me live debug, if that's correct. But basically, I think that, and I don't think this PD is used elsewhere, right? So this should be, I'm not even sure that this thing is used elsewhere. DF is that. And this is a bit of an odd one. Why it's even at portfolio details. Control F for PD. Right, so it's over there, and it's over there, and it's over there. And it's over there. So it isn't used anywhere else. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's not used anywhere else in this piece of code. So I go back, and now I think that this might work, which is I should be typing this here is a PD dot data frame. Yes, happy days. Because then the lock will work. This is line 14. Should be this. Since the function returns any. instance that, and it is this function here. It's not one, I think. The function. This is the thing about typing, is that I would get this wrong, right? Like that piece over here, this pd.dataframe. Anyway, I'm doing this, I'm just checking someone else's code, but I'm not, like, when I say checking, all I'm really actually doing is I'm running through it and resolving all the errors. So I had errors like initially, like before I actually loaded this video up, I couldn't get this to work, and I had to do a Streamlit thing. And on the Streamlit thing, well, you can still see it here. I was doing pip install st-pages, and actually I needed to install a specific version, which is st-pages 0.5.0, and so this add indentation thing wasn't working. I don't exactly know what the indentation is for yet, but like now at least I can navigate to it, whereas before I couldn't. Now if I can't navigate somewhere, unless it's like literally referencing the core C library in the beginning, so if I can't do the go to definition, then I've got a problem. Like, so this is what it does. I know that it exists, and then I can attempt to start following it further. Now, get metrics is somewhere in this code base. We're on line 383. Go to definition, or gather metrics. Let's click on it. I don't know if I can click on it there or how I get to it. Click on it. Yeah, it's gone to line this bit here. So that's where it's actually created in this try error of this pattern. Now this init module, this is from the Streamlit st._pages module, the Streamlit module. So, you know, it's a core library and it's defined there, and I can find it, and I can find completely the root and where it exactly came from. Now I'm satisfied, you know, kind of like what it does, and I can, you know, see how it works. So I want to be able to do that at all points in time, and that was my problem with this lock. That therefore was my problem with this pd.dataframe, this type hinting, and that therefore is my issue with this load asset. Now load asset is our internal thing, and if I right mouse click on it and go to definition, I see that in the definition here, and I've got other things that I need to resolve here. We can see I've got to go and resolve these, the Boto 3 and the Boto core exceptions. I don't like a function necessarily returning any, especially when I attempt to look through this code. I'm not sure that it should be any. Possibly it should be any, but or maybe it should be a data frame and a none or something like that. But here we've got it's got a return read asset here, and that isn't any. I guess that's why, and it's almost as though like any, when you start with this, it gets bad. And this may be like one of the things that sometimes people don't like about a loosely typed or scripted language like Python and JavaScript, which is that, you know, you can throw this in and it returns out, I don't know what it's going to return. I don't know what the function is going to return. And in other languages, it doesn't let you do that. You know, you have to return something, some sort of object. And here we just say, oh yeah, any. Which means that the downstream code now doesn't necessarily know what it's going to get. And I don't like that. I also don't like things like this, where this client error, which again is any. So if I do go to definition, it's probably further up in, I don't know if it's further up in the code. Go to definition. No definition found for client error. Fantastic. So again, not a fan yet. Maybe client error was up here in the, I was trying to scroll on the bar. Yeah, it is. It's up here. So that's because of the import. So that's fine. Maybe that'll be okay once I've resolved it. I will go here. I'm sure Boto 3 is just pip install Boto 3. But actually, I won't make this mistake again because it will be in the TOML file, I'm told. So if I go to the files and somewhere here, I guess, or not, maybe it'll be in the requirements file. There's a Boto 3 here. I'm probably going to do a pip install of that because it never got installed. So I'm going to do that live. If it fails, it fails. So I do a pip. I could do pip install of requirements because all of these should be installed anyway. I don't know if it broke partway through or something. Pip install. Oh, I was waiting for the autocomplete, won't do it. Boto 3, but it's doing a specific version of Boto 3, so I just make sure that I get the same version, which is possibly why. Where was it on that thing when I did nav to it? Went to the go to definition here. It had the squiggly underscore because although it's resolved, maybe the right version. There we go. It's disappeared now. Also, Boto core 3.exceptions has disappeared. So it was a versioning thing. I don't know, like digging into it, why, but it's fixed all of those types of errors. So a lot of that is more hunky-dory. That's good. I still have an issue with, well, I have an issue with get object, I think, because I can't go to that definition. No definition for get object. So, you know, I'll query what that is at some point in time, possibly. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But I'm still unhappy with these any's in there because the functions have returned something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight back to that load asset, go to definition, find it. It's easy to navigate this way. And I can see here, I'm going to look at the returns. So it returns this thing, right? And this thing's got an any, so I've got to really go and do that. And it returns it again here. And it returns it again here. So one of these needs to, let me just get rid of that. I don't want to get the background sounds. Each one of these, if I go to the definition of them, they're in the same file. Again, it returns any. And this file path is a upath, so I think it's like a binary path or something, but it's a path name. And it opens a file as a binary file and returns a pickle.load. I don't know what type of pickle is pickle.load. Let's have a look. Okay, so pickle.load returns any, so that's kind of like going to potentially be the issue over there.